You think a poor man like you can marry my daughter? Don't even dream of joining the ranks of rich people like us. In short, you are not worth my daughter's hand in marriage. Now leave," her father said coldly, and her mother took advantage of the situation and spoke out of turn. "You approached me for the family's property anyway." "My name is Kevin, a 34-year-old office worker. I've been with the company after graduating from college for 12 years now. Some of my peers have left the company to start their own businesses, or left when they got married or had children. I'm still working at the same company, and even today, I still devote myself to the work right in front of me. You might think that I am a lonely, workaholic man, but I'm not. I have a girlfriend named Jane. Jane is a business partner of mine. She is a nice young woman who takes her work seriously. After working together several times, we became attracted to each other, and she confessed her feelings for me, and we started dating. It has been 2 years since we started dating, and we have even promised to get married. But if you ask me if I was worried about getting married, I have to admit that I am worried about some things. She is still young, 6 years younger than me. I wonder if she would be okay with being so much younger than me. Although she tells me that age doesn't matter, her father is actually the owner of a company. She herself works for his company. This means that in the future, she will take over the company and become the president. I'm afraid that her parents will oppose our marriage. I have been feeling uneasy about it for a long time. I was happy when she asked me to marry her, but I wonder if we can really get married. I have always had such an uneasy feeling about it all, but she doesn't seem to mind at all. Her aloofness was part of her charm. She had already met my parents, and the four of us would often have dinner together, her and my parents getting along well. So she has already agreed to marry me, and my parents like her too. The day came when I went to greet Jane's parents. I was nervous, and I had been fidgeting for a week. It was the day to meet her parents. I finally arrived at Jane's parents' house. The house was spectacular, as one would expect from a mansion where the president of a company lives. It is a mansion in a prime location in Tokyo, so it is spacious. From the gate to the entrance, it was already luxurious, and the ground made of marble was very beautiful. The exterior alone was breathtaking and made me wonder if this was a royal palace and not Japan. At that moment, I instantly began to wonder if my attire was appropriate for this place. It was true that I had prepared some high-class clothes for the occasion, but if you ask me if they were appropriate for this mansion, I have my doubts. My family is of average status, for better or worse, so it would be a world of difference compared to Jane's house. This is also something that has actually bothered me a few times since we started dating. She would treat me to a meal at a fancy restaurant as a matter of course, or book an expensive hotel room when we went on vacation. The fact that she thought this was normal was one of the things that made me feel that she lived in a different world from mine. Even so, she never imposed her values on me, nor did she brag about being rich. "I don't judge people by their money. I fell in love with you because of your personality and your inner beauty, but it's also true that as your girlfriend, I want to think the best of you." I thought she was cute when she said that. She understood that I was concerned about the difference in status and said those kind words to me. At first, I questioned why she was dating such an older, unattractive man, but her kind words made me believe that she was genuinely looking at my inner self. In other words, Jane and I are together because we love each other inside out, so I decided to marry her. I think I have found a truly wonderful woman. Looking back over the past 2 years of our relationship, I have felt happy very often. If I could, I would marry her. So I hope her parents will agree to marry her. "Don't worry, I have already told my parents about you." She encouraged me by saying that. The front door opened and I was greeted by her mother. "Welcome, welcome. You must be Kevin." "I'm Kevin. Nice to meet you." Her mother gave us a quick bob and let us in. The interior was very luxurious, and after walking down a long hallway, we arrived at a large living room. There, Jane's father was waiting for us, sitting on a large, expensive plush sofa. I became nervous all at once. Of course, I had been nervous when I met her mother, but her father was very different, or rather, he had an immense presence that made me even more nervous. "Hello, my name is Kevin. It's nice to meet you." I was so nervous that my voice was turned upside down. Jane smiled at me and told me there was no need to be so nervous. However, her parents were not smiling at all, and were staring at me with rather cold eyes. I could feel my spine straighten as I looked at them. "Please sit down," her father tells me, and I sit down on the sofa. It's like an interview with the president of a company. No. Her father said that the moment I sat down, and her mother. "You're right," her mother frowned. What is with you and Mom? You can't just say no. She defended me and said angrily, but it didn't work on her parents at all. How old are you anyway? You look pretty old to me. Well, I'm 34. You're 6 years older than Jane? How can you accept being married to a man who is that much older than you? That's right, he's definitely about the age of her uncles, her mother said. Besides, it would be difficult to have children now. I need you to produce an heir, you know. As far as I'm concerned, it has to be a young man, younger than Jane. I knew he was going to mention my age. You must have a problem if you're still single at this age. You're too difficult, or you have a bad personality, or something like that. Mom, what a thing to say. Kevin is a wonderful man with a great personality. I wonder why he hasn't been married before. Her mother's sharp questions burst out. I'm sorry, I know I'm old enough to be married, but I love my job and I want to work harder at it, so I've always prioritized work over marriage. That's why I didn't get married until now, and it wasn't until I met her that I decided I wanted to get married. I struggled to spin my words, almost overwhelmed by the pressure from her parents, but her parents' expressions did not change at all. You said you're going to work hard at your job. The company you work for is not a major company. Even if you work hard at such a company and get promoted, the salary will be negligible. I think you should focus more on improving your attractiveness as a man. You're right. I think you are right. Even though you're an old man, you can look a little better. I guess you'll have to get plastic surgery. Mom, it's rude to be so straightforward. I saw her parents laugh for the first time, but that was when they made fun of me. I was almost overcome with unspeakable shock and anger. You think a poor man like you can marry my daughter? Don't even dream of joining the ranks of rich people like us. In short, you are not worth my daughter's hand in marriage. Now leave. Her father coldly told her as such, and her marriage took advantage of the situation and spoke out of turn. I don't know how you managed to trick my daughter, but you can't deceive our eyes. Enough. Mother and father say whatever they want. It's my life, and it's up to me who I marry. She tried to defend me by saying that, but I stopped her. I could understand how your father feels. However, it is quite unbecoming of you to speak out in such an abusive manner, even though we have never met before. Being rich or having such status is not important to me, but if I were to ever aspire to be rich, I definitely would not want to be rich like you guys, I said, and stood up. We would not have to have any more conversations. I walked out of her parents' house to leave. Don't be silly. We won't let poor people like you insult us. We will never accept this marriage. I don't want to be related to people like you. Her father shuddered as I said this. You are way out of line. I'd like to see the face of the parents of a man like you. He spit out vehemently. I ignored him and left my parents-in-law's house. That attitude was too much for me. I walked outside in frustration. Then she came running up to me in a panic. Kevin, wait. I'm sorry. I can't believe my parents said that. That was terrible, but it's a good thing, isn't it? If we got married, there would have been a lot more pressure on us and a lot more bad things said about us. I'm leaving home. I won't take over my father's company. I'm quitting that company too. You shouldn't make such a decision based on such a fleeting feeling. It's not a fleeting feeling. I really do love you. We didn't get together because of money, so it shouldn't be a problem if I move out. Yes, that's true, but... Let's go tell your parents about this, Jane said, and walked pulling my hand. We walked to my parents' house. My parents were surprised at my sudden visit, but they welcomed me warmly. We had bought some tea cakes at a department store, and we told them about our day over tea. My father listened in silence. I see. Jane, your father's company is called Tricircle, isn't it? Yes. Then your father's name is Jack, is that correct? Yes, it is. I knew it. I see. Alright, I'll go with you to Jane's parents' house. What's wrong, Dad? Suddenly. Because he said he wanted to see your parents, let's go see them as they wish. My father is not the type to be provoked like that, so I was surprised, but my father was ready to go, so she and I had no choice but to visit her parents' house again with my father. We entered that mansion again and pushed the intercom. This time, her father, not her mother, opened the front door and answered it. You persistent son of a bitch! No matter how many times you come here, I will never forgive you again. Whose son are you talking to, Jack? Her father looks at my father, rolling his eyes. Then, after a few seconds or so, he looks startled, as if he had realized something. Wait, if it isn't Mr. Brown? I'm glad he finally remembered. You're his son! You mean, your father is Dr. Brown? That's right. He's only grown cuter as he gets older. How dare you insult my precious son? Have you forgotten what I taught you for 3 years? No. When you were caught shoplifting, when you were arrested for smoking and drinking, I covered for you and gave you a chance to rehabilitate yourself. I even helped you find a job after graduation by frantically going around to various companies and finding you interviews. I taught him that no one can live alone and that it is necessary to help one another, but as soon as the company you started became successful, you forgot all about it. Oh, I'm sorry. Jane's father was now in a very different state of confusion. She had never seen her father in such a state before. If you're going to be the president of a company, you need to treat people with consideration. You must be successful and think you're better than others, and you look down on people. Apparently, he had an idea of what my dad was talking about. He had been behaving that way towards me when we'd first met. I'm sure he has a similar attitude towards other people. Oh, by the way, my boss always says my stomach is in knots. Dad, are you harassing him? What are you talking about? I'm just saying things to him in a very harsh way because I expect a lot from him. Her father was starting to get more and more out of line. Jack, I thought you changed, and now you're back to the way you were. You're really a hopeless man, aren't you? First of all, I want you to apologize for insulting my son. Oh, I am truly sorry. Her father bowed his head to me in anger. It seems that the master-slave relationship that was ingrained in our bodies when we were students is hard to change. Hey, now you should apologize to them too. Her mother also bowed her head to me. I was relieved that her parents had apologized to me. I'm leaving this house. I'm quitting my job. At that moment, she told her parents. Her parents panicked. Wait a minute. If you leave, who will take over? That's right. You're all we have left. I'm sick of being controlled by you. I'm going to start my own company and see how far I can go on my own. I'm moving out of the house too. I will marry Kevin, as I promised. Thank you for everything you've done for me. With that, Jane bowed her head. Her parents turned pale and froze. We left the house with her parents by our side. My father had been a high school teacher until he retired, and she and I were surprised to learn that Jane's father had been a student of his. I looked up the company Jane worked for on their website and saw Jack's picture. At first, I was happy to see that my hardworking student had done so well, but you can't get so caught up in the money that you forget what's important. My father was serious, as a teacher should be, and he was always strict about such things. Maybe it was because I was raised by a strict father that Jane told me she liked my inner self. Later, Jane really quit her job and started her own business. I supported her while continuing my own work, which I still loved. She seemed to have a good sense of management and was able to turn a profit early on. We got married and became husband and wife. Now, we live happily supporting each other. Incidentally, her father was later sued by several of his subordinates for power harassment, which caused the stock price to drop and led to his dismissal as president at a general shareholders meeting, apparently because he was not an appropriate manager. I realized that humility is absolutely necessary no matter how well you are doing. Since I have a great role model in my father, I will try to live my life with integrity, remembering what he taught me.